Ambassador Chen Wei stood in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council and felt very small. The chamber was enormous, built for species much larger than humans. Above him, the Crithian delegate floated in a tank of glowing liquid. To his right, the massive stone form of a Granix representative sat motionless, its three eyes watching everything. The air smelled strange, filled with chemicals that helped different species breathe together. Chen had been Earth's representative for 5 years now. 5 years of being ignored, mocked, and dismissed. Today was no different. The human delegation wishes to speak. The council speaker's voice echoed through the hall. The speaker was a Viridian, tall and elegant with silver skin that shimmered under the lights. His tone made it clear what he thought of human opinions. "Yes, honored speaker," Chen said, keeping his voice steady. "The reports of the swarm's movements are concerning. Earth wishes to propose—" "The probationary species may observe, not propose," the Viridian interrupted. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Not cruel laughter exactly, but the kind reserved for children who don't understand adult conversations. Chen's jaw tightened, but he bowed his head and sat down. 87 years. That's how long humanity had been part of the Galactic Council. 87 years, and they were still treated like newcomers who barely deserved to be in the room. The debate continued without him. The consumptive swarm had appeared at the galaxy's edge 6 months ago. It moved from system to system, consuming everything. Planets, stars, ships, stations, nothing remained after the swarm passed through. Entire civilizations had gone silent, their final transmissions showing only darkness and hunger. "The threat is still 14 cycles away from populated space," declared Ambassador Vortesh of the Crithian Accord. His species had ruled their sector for 3 million years. "We have time to study this phenomenon, to understand it before we act." "Understanding will not save us if we wait too long," countered the Granix delegate, each word grinding out like stones falling. The Granix were only 2 million years old as a civilization, but they were warriors at heart. "Barbaric thinking," the Viridian speaker said smoothly. "We are not primitives who strike first and think later. The Council has protocols. We will follow them." Chen watched and said nothing. He had learned that lesson well. Humans were primitives in the eyes of the Council, short-lived creatures who barely understood the basics of space travel. Earth had no natural psionics, no energy manipulation abilities, no genetic superiority. Humans were just ordinary. Weak bodies that broke easily, minds that lived only a century, and technology that seemed laughable compared to the elder species. The Council had 14 member species. Humanity ranked 14th. Last place. They were allowed to listen but not to vote on important matters. They could request but not demand. They could observe but not lead. The session dragged on for hours. The elder species loved to talk. They would debate the color of a nebula for days if given the chance. Finally, the speaker called for a vote on defensive measures. All in favor of maintaining current observation protocols? 13 hands, tentacles, or energy fields rose in agreement. Chen wasn't allowed to vote. The motion passes. We will continue to monitor the swarm. This session is adjourned. As the chamber emptied, Chen gathered his datapad and prepared to leave. A shadow fell over him. He looked up to see the Viridian speaker standing there, towering over him by nearly 2 meters. "Ambassador Chen," the Viridian said, his voice carrying that familiar tone of amusement. "Your species is concerned about the swarm, yes?" "All species should be concerned, honored speaker." Of course. The Viridian's expression was something like a smile. "But humans are particularly fearful creatures, are they not? Your species sees danger everywhere. It comes from your violent history, I suppose. Evolution on a death world." Chen had heard it all before. Earth was classified as a Class 12 death world, a planet so hostile that most species couldn't understand how anything evolved there at all. Weather that could kill you, animals that wanted to eat you, diseases that struck without warning, and even the plants were often poisonous. "We simply wish to help, honored speaker." "Help?" The Viridian laughed softly. "Dear Ambassador, the elder species have faced threats for millions of years. Your kind has been in space for what? 200 years. You have barely left your own star system. The Council appreciates your enthusiasm, but leave the serious matters to those who understand them." The Viridian walked away, his robes flowing behind him. Chen stood alone in the empty chamber. Around his neck, hidden under his collar, was a small communicator. He pressed it once. "Report sent, Ambassador," came the quiet response in his earpiece. "Command acknowledges." Chen allowed himself a small smile. Let them think humans were simple. Let them think Earth was weak. The truth was something the galaxy wasn't ready to know. Not yet. He left the Great Hall and headed back to the human diplomatic quarters. Through the windows he could see the stars. Somewhere out there the swarm was coming. And somewhere closer, hidden in the darkness of space, humanity was ready. 3 days later, the alert came. The swarm had changed direction. It was moving faster now, accelerating toward populated systems. The Council's estimate of 14 cycles was wrong. They had 5 cycles at most. The galaxy began to panic. The emergency council session was chaos. Representatives shouted at each other across the chamber. Some demanded immediate military action. Others insisted on more study. A few of the older species simply sat in silence, perhaps remembering other threats they had faced across the millennia. Ambassador Chen Wei sat in the human section and watched. His face was calm. Too calm, some might have said. "The human looks unbothered," observed a Krithian delegate to his companion. "Perhaps they don't understand the danger." Chen heard the comment but didn't react. Understanding was not humanity's problem. Humans understood danger very well. The truth was a secret that only a handful of people in the entire galaxy knew. Chen was one of them. 43 years ago, a human exploration vessel had found something in the Oort cloud at the edge of Earth's solar system. It was a derelict ship, ancient and damaged, drifting in the darkness. The ship belonged to a species that no longer existed. Inside, the human explorers found a warning. The warning was about the swarm. The ancient species had encountered it, fought it, and lost. Their final message was clear: the swarm would return. It always returned. And when it came, entire civilizations would fall unless someone was ready. Earth's governments had made a decision that day. They would not share this information with the Galactic Council. The elder species would debate and discuss and form committees. They would waste time. But humanity had learned a hard lesson from its own history. When your survival is at stake, you don't wait for permission to prepare. So humanity had prepared. The Sol Defense Initiative began in secret. To the rest of the galaxy, it looked like humans were building a small defense network, maybe a few dozen ships for local protection. The Council had smiled at humanity's efforts like parents watching a child play soldier. They didn't know the truth. Out beyond Neptune, in the cold darkness where no one looked, humanity had built something else entirely: shipyards the size of moons, manufacturing facilities carved into asteroids, research stations developing weapons that broke every treaty the Council had ever written. "Ambassador Chen," the Council speaker called out, pulling him from his thoughts. "Earth has been remarkably quiet during this crisis. Do humans have nothing to contribute?" Chen stood slowly. Every eye in the chamber turned to him. He felt the weight of their attention, their judgment, their dismissal. "Earth wishes to contribute to the defense," he said simply. "With what?" The Viridian speaker made a gesture that might have been a laugh. "Your tiny fleet? Your primitive weapons? Ambassador, this is a threat beyond your comprehension. Nevertheless, we stand ready to help." "How noble," the speaker said. "But the Council requires real military strength, not gestures of solidarity." Chen sat back down. He had said what needed to be said. The rest would speak for itself soon enough. Across the galaxy, in Earth's orbit, Captain Sarah Okonkwo stood on the bridge of the UESS Indomitable and read the latest reports. The swarm had been detected in the Kepler expanse, moving fast. 3 Council fleets had been dispatched to stop it. "How long until contact?" she asked. 48 hours, Captain," her tactical officer replied. Sarah was 45 years old and had spent half her life preparing for this moment. The Indomitable was one of humanity's new generation of warships, built in secret. Powered by technology the Council didn't know existed. It hung in space alongside 200 sister ships, all waiting. "Council transmission incoming," her communications officer announced. On the screen, the 3 Council fleets appeared. They were impressive, Sarah had to admit. Each fleet contained hundreds of ships representing the best military technology of species millions of years old. Energy shields that could stop stars, weapons that manipulated reality itself, ships that phased in and out of normal space. They look confident, her executive officer observed. They've never met the swarm, Sarah replied quietly. The next 48 hours felt like years. Sarah and her crew watched the council transmissions. They saw the three fleets take positions. They heard the confident broadcasts from council commanders who spoke of ancient battle tactics and superior technology. Then the swarm arrived. It came as a wave of darkness that blotted out the stars. Billions of creatures, each one a nightmare of biology and machinery fused together. They moved with purpose, with hunger, with absolute inevitability. The first council fleet opened fire. Space lit up with energy weapons and reality-tearing missiles. Thousands of swarm creatures died in the opening salvo. It didn't matter. For every creature destroyed, 10 more took its place. The swarm adapted, its skin changing to absorb energy weapons. It flowed around defensive positions like water. It learned from every attack and countered perfectly. The first fleet lasted 6 hours. The second fleet tried different tactics, different weapons. They lasted 4 hours. The third fleet broke formation and tried to retreat. The swarm consumed them in 3 hours. Sarah watched it all. Her face was hard, emotionless. Around her, her crew stood in silence. They had known this would happen. The warnings from the ancient ship had been clear. The swarm could not be fought with conventional tactics, Captain. Her communications officer said quietly. New swarm trajectory detected. Where? They've changed course. Heading directly for... The officer paused. Viridian Prime. The Viridian homeworld. Sarah closed her eyes for a moment. The Viridians. The species that had mocked humanity, dismissed them, treated them like children. Now the swarm was going to their home. Orders from command, she asked. Yes, Captain. Fleet Admiral Zhang sends his compliments and says... The officer smiled slightly. He says it's time to introduce ourselves properly. Sarah nodded. She opened a channel to her fleet. All ships, this is Okonkwo. Prepare for combat operations. We're going hunting. Across human space, the hidden fleet began to move. The Galactic Council emergency chamber was filled with fear. On the main display, the swarm moved through space like a living nightmare, heading straight for Viridian Prime. 3 billion Viridians lived on that world. 3 billion souls about to face extinction. We must evacuate, someone shouted. There's no time, another replied. Send everything we have. We have nothing left to send. Ambassador Chen Wei stood and raised his hand. The gesture was so unusual that the chamber actually fell silent. Earth will respond to this threat, he said calmly. The Viridian speaker stared at him. The speaker's silver skin had turned dull with stress. Human. This is not the time for empty gestures. My world is dying. Then let us help. Help? Help? The speaker's voice cracked. Your species has perhaps 30 ships. Outdated vessels with primitive weapons. The swarm destroyed 3 full council fleets. What can you possibly do? Chen looked directly at the speaker. Everything necessary. Before anyone could respond, Chen activated his communicator. This is Ambassador Chen Wei. Authorization code Phoenix 77. Execute Operation Guardian. Across the galaxy, humanity moved. Fleet Admiral Zhang Jun stood on the bridge of the UESS Olympus, the flagship of Earth's hidden armada. He was 72 years old, a veteran of every conflict humanity had faced since reaching the stars. His hair was white, his face lined with age, but his eyes were sharp and clear. All ships report ready, Admiral, his executive officer announced. Then let's show them who we are, Zhang said quietly. Initiate jump sequence. All ships follow the Olympus. Space around Earth orbit began to ripple and tear. One by one, massive vessels emerged from stealth fields that had hidden them for decades. Ships 2 kilometers long, bristling with weapons, carriers that held thousands of fighters, destroyers, cruisers, battleships, and dreadnoughts, hundreds of them. The few council observers stationed near Earth watched in complete shock as humanity's true fleet revealed itself. Zhang input the jump coordinates personally. The council used standard FTL drives that required specific jump lanes and took weeks to cross the galaxy. Humanity had found something better in that ancient derelict. Something faster. The fleet entered jump space. Reality bent around them. They crossed distances that should have taken months in less than an hour. They emerged in orbit around Viridian Prime. The Viridian Defense Coordinator was staring at his sensors in disbelief. That's impossible. Those readings must be wrong. Run the scan again, his superior ordered. I've run it 5 times. Admiral, There are 347 vessels in high orbit. Unknown configuration. They're broadcasting human identification codes. 300? Humans don't have 300 ships. They barely have 30. Well, they have them now. The human fleet spread out in perfect formation, creating a defensive sphere around Viridian Prime. Each ship took its position with military precision. The Viridians had never seen anything like it. The vessels were dark, angular, covered in armor plating and weapon systems. They looked brutal and efficient, designed by a species that understood war at a fundamental level. Admiral Zhang opened a channel to the Viridian government. His face appeared on every screen across their homeworld. This is Fleet Admiral Zhang Jun of the United Earth Space Forces. We are here to defend your world. All Viridian vessels are to maintain position behind our defensive line. We will handle the swarm. The Viridian High Command struggled to respond. Their council representative finally spoke, his voice shaking. Admiral Zhang, we don't understand. Where did you get these ships? This technology? That can be discussed later, Zhang replied. Right now you need to trust us and stay behind our lines. The swarm will be here in 4 hours. 4 hours? Our projections said 6 hours at minimum. Your projections were wrong. We've been tracking the swarm much longer than you have. Zhang cut the communication and turned to his fleet. He opened a channel that reached every human ship, every human crew member. This is Admiral Zhang. In a few hours, we will face the greatest threat this galaxy has seen in 1,000,000 years. The elder species tried to stop it and failed. They fought with honor, but honor alone won't win this battle. We will win because we are human. Because we come from a world that tried to kill us every single day and we survived anyway. Because we learned that survival isn't about being the strongest or the fastest or the smartest. It's about being the most stubborn. It's about refusing to die. He paused, looking at the faces of his crew around him, young and old from every nation Earth had ever known, united in purpose. Today the galaxy will see what humanity truly is, not the weak species they think we are, not the primitives they've mocked. Today they see survivors, warriors, protectors. Today they see us. Then Zhang opened a broadcast to the entire galaxy. Every council world, every species, every station. He activated full-spectrum recording. This is Admiral Zhang Jun of Earth. What you are about to witness will be broadcast live across all frequencies. We do this not for glory, but so that every species in this galaxy understands what happened here. So they understand what the swarm is, and so they understand what humanity is. Witness. On Viridian Prime, billions watched their screens. Across the council worlds, trillions tuned in. They saw the human fleet dark and ready. They saw the planet behind it, blue and green and beautiful. And then, on every sensor, every screen, every display, they saw the swarm arrive. It came as darkness itself, a wave of writhing horror that filled space. Billions upon billions of creatures. Each one biomechanical, each one designed to consume and destroy. They moved with terrible purpose toward Viridian Prime. The galaxy held its breath. The human fleet did not retreat. Instead, every ship turned toward the oncoming darkness. Admiral Zhang's voice was calm and clear. All ships. This is Olympus Actual. Weapons free. Engage at will. The human fleet advanced, straight into the swarm, and the battle for Viridian Prime began. Captain Sarah Okonkwo watched the swarm approach on her tactical display. She had seen the footage of what it did to the council fleets. She knew what was coming. But fear was a luxury she couldn't afford. Distance to contact, she asked. 200,000 kilometers in closing, her tactical officer replied. Swarm formation is dispersing. They're trying to surround us, let them try. Sarah opened the fleet channel. All destroyers, this is Indomitable. Execute attack pattern Delta. Show them what Earth makes. Her ship lunged forward and 40 other destroyers followed. They were the smallest ships in the human fleet, but they were fast and deadly. The swarm creatures rushed toward them, each one the size of a building, covered in organic armor and blade-like appendages. Railguns online, her weapons officer announced. Firing solution locked. Fire. The UESS Indomitable shuddered as its main railguns spoke. Solid metal slugs, accelerated to a fraction of light speed, tore through space. They hit the lead swarm creatures with devastating effect. The kinetic energy was so intense that the target simply vaporized, turning into clouds of superheated plasma. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched in confusion. Kinetic weapons? Physical projectiles? That was ancient technology, crude and primitive. But it was working. Secondary batteries, continuous fire, Sarah ordered. Her ship's smaller guns opened up, creating a wall of metal and death. Swarm creatures by the hundreds exploded into fragments. But Sarah knew this was just the beginning. The swarm would adapt. It always adapted. Swarm biomass is changing composition, her science officer reported. They're developing ablative layers to handle kinetic impact. Then we changed tactics. Switched to plasma cannons. The Indomitables weapons cycled. Now streams of superheated plasma lanced out, burning through swarm creatures like paper. The smell of burning organics filled the void, visible as glowing clouds on the sensors. Behind the destroyer screen, the human cruisers opened fire with their main weapons. Antimatter torpedoes streaked through space, each one containing enough destructive power to level a city. When they hit concentrations of swarm creatures, the annihilation reactions created miniature suns that consumed everything around them. The galaxy watched in growing horror and awe. The weapons the humans were using were terrible, efficient, designed for maximum destruction. These weren't the elegant energy beams of council ships. These were weapons built by a species that understood one fundamental truth. Sometimes, to protect life, you had to be very good at taking it. Admiral Zhang stood on the Olympus Bridge and monitored the battle. The swarm was pressing hard, trying to overwhelm the destroyer screen. Time for the next phase. Deploy the drones, he ordered. From the human carriers, clouds of small objects launched into space. Thousands of them, then hundreds of thousands. Each drone was autonomous, self-replicating, armed with plasma cutters and explosive charges. They swarmed into the swarm, a counter-swarm of humanity's own making. The drones worked in perfect coordination, cutting through enemy biomass, learning and adapting in real time. When one drone found an effective attack method, it transmitted that information to all the others instantly. The swarm tried to adapt, but the drones adapted faster. Swarm forces attempting to flank our position, the tactical officer reported. Coming around the planet's north pole. Battleship Squadron 7 intercept, Zhang commanded. Show them the Aurora. The UESS Aurora and 5 sister battleships moved into position. These were humanity's heavy hitters, each one massing over 3 million tons. Their main weapons powered up, drawing energy from miniature fusion reactors buried deep in their cores. What happened next made the watching galaxy fall silent. The Aurora fired its main cannon. It wasn't an energy beam or a missile. It was something the Council had banned millions of years ago as too dangerous. A directed gravity weapon that created a tiny temporary black hole in its target area. The effect was instantaneous. Thousands of swarm creatures were crushed into a single point of infinite density, then exploded outward as the black hole collapsed. Matter turned to pure energy in a blast that lit up the entire star system. What are they? A Crethian observer whispered. What kind of species builds weapons like that? On Viridian Prime, billions watched their screens. They saw the human ships fighting with a ferocity that seemed impossible. They heard the communications between human vessels, voices calm and professional even in the middle of hell. Indomitable, this is Strike Wing 7. We're Winchester on missiles. Moving to gun runs. Copy that, 7. Watch your 6. You've got bogeys on your tail. Roger that. Hey, Sarah. Remember that thing we practiced in the belt? The stupid thing? Yeah, that one. Do it. I'll cover you. The Viridians listened to humans joking, laughing, singing even as they fought for survival. One human pilot was reciting old poetry as he dove his fighter into impossible odds. Another was discussing what she wanted for dinner after the battle. They fought like it was just another day at work, but beneath the casual tone was something terrifying. These humans weren't afraid. They were comfortable with war in a way that scared the watching species. They had words for things the elder races didn't even have concepts for. Fire discipline, kill zones, suppressing fire, tactical nuclear deployment. The swarm pressed harder. It sent wave after wave of creatures trying to break through the human lines. And humanity met each wave with new weapons, new tactics, new horrors. Quantum entanglement bombs that made swarm clusters simply cease to exist across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Nuclear-pumped plasma cannons that burned hot enough to ignite atmosphere from orbit. Nanite clouds that dissolved organic matter at the molecular level. They're breaking, Sarah reported from her position. The swarm is starting to fall back. Zhang checked his displays. 12 hours of continuous combat. His ships had taken damage, but they held. The swarm's attack was weakening. It was trying to disengage. Don't let them retreat, Zhang ordered. All ships pursue. We end this now. The human fleet surged forward. Destroyers hunted down fleeing swarm creatures. Fighters chased down stragglers. The battleships fired again and again, each shot erasing thousands of enemies from existence. And then, for the first time in recorded history, something impossible happened. The swarm broke. It turned away from Viridian Prime and fled into deep space, leaving behind billions of dead creatures and the scattered debris of its failed assault. The human fleet regrouped in orbit, weapons still hot, crews exhausted but victorious. Admiral Zhang opened a channel to the entire galaxy. This is Admiral Zhang Jun. The swarm has been defeated. Viridian Prime is secure. To all Council species, the threat has been neutralized. We will maintain position here until the situation is stable. Silence. Across the galaxy, trillions of beings sat in stunned shock. They had just watched a species they considered primitive, weak and irrelevant completely destroy a threat that had obliterated 3 Council fleets. On Viridian Prime, people poured into the streets. They looked up at the sky where the human fleet held position, these dark ships that had appeared from nowhere to save them. The galaxy would never see humanity the same way again. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so quiet. Every representative sat in their place, but no one spoke. They simply stared at the central display, where the transmission from Viridian Prime still played on repeat. Human ships holding position. The debris field of the defeated swarm. The impossible victory. Ambassador Chen Wei stood calmly in the human section, waiting. He had been waiting for this moment for 5 years. For 43 years, really, since the day that derelict ship was found. The day humanity learned the galaxy's dark secret and decided to prepare instead of panic. The Viridian speaker finally rose. His silver skin looked dull, aged somehow. When he spoke, his voice carried none of its usual arrogance. Ambassador Chen, he said slowly, the Viridian people owe humanity a debt we can never repay. You saved 3 billion lives. You saved our world. He paused, struggling with words. We have treated your species with contempt. We called you primitive. We mocked your efforts. And yet when our world faced extinction, you came. You fought. You bled for us. Why? Chen looked at the speaker, then around the chamber at all the representatives. Some looked ashamed. Others looked afraid. A few looked calculating, already wondering what this meant for galactic politics. We came because it was the right thing to do, Chen said simply. When the monsters come, you don't ask who deserves saving. You save everyone you can. But the fleet, a Crithian delegate said, her voice confused. The weapons, the technology, where did it all come from? How did you hide this from us? Chen took a breath. This was the moment. 43 years ago, we found something in our solar system. A derelict ship containing a warning about the swarm. We learned that it would come, that it had destroyed civilizations before, and that it would destroy them again. We faced a choice. We could share this information with the Council and hope that bureaucracy and debate would lead to preparation. Or we could prepare ourselves. You didn't trust us, the Viridian speaker said. No, Chen admitted. We didn't, and we were right not to. Look at how the Council responded to the swarm when it appeared. Debates, discussions, committees. You wasted time while the threat grew closer. Humanity couldn't afford to wait. So you built an armada in secret, a Granix delegate said. You lied to us about your capabilities. We withheld information, Chen corrected. There's a difference. We never claimed to be helpless. You simply assumed we were. You saw what you wanted to see, a young species, barely out of their own system, weak and irrelevant. You never looked deeper. How many ships do you have? The speaker asked. 812 combat vessels, Chen replied, plus support craft, logistics ships, and mobile shipyards. Our industrial capacity is significantly larger than we reported. We have colonies and systems you don't know about. Manufacturing facilities in asteroid belts, research stations developing technologies that... He paused. Technologies that would concern you. The chamber erupted in noise. Shocked voices, angry accusations, frightened questions. Chen let them talk, let them process. The truth was out now. When the noise died down, Chen continued. Humanity has been holding back, not because we wanted to, but because we had to. We needed time to prepare for the swarm. We knew it was coming. We knew the council wouldn't be ready, so we made ourselves ready. You made yourselves into a military power, the speaker said. A threat. A shield, Chen corrected firmly. There's a difference. We didn't build this fleet to conquer. We built it to protect, not just Earth but all of us. The Council, the elder species, every civilization in the galaxy. Because that's what humans do. We protect. Why? A small voice asked. It came from a delegate of the Tasari, a peaceful species known for their art and philosophy. Why would you protect species that have treated you so poorly? Chen smiled sadly. Because of where we come from. Earth is what you call a Class 12 death world. Everything there tried to kill us. The weather, the animals, the plants, the diseases. We survived by working together, by protecting each other, by refusing to give up. We learned that survival isn't about being strong alone. It's about making sure everyone survives together. He looked around the chamber. We learned something else too. We learned that the universe is dangerous, that threats can come from anywhere, that peace is a luxury you have to fight to maintain. You elder species, you've had millions of years of peace. You've forgotten what it means to struggle, to fight, to prepare for the worst. Humanity hasn't. We can't. It's in our nature to expect danger and prepare for it. So you see yourselves as our protectors now? The Viridian speaker's voice was hard to read. Angry? Grateful? Frightened? No, Chen said. We see ourselves as your partners, your equals. We have something you lack, the ability to wage war effectively. You have something we lack, wisdom, knowledge, millions of years of civilization and culture. Together, we're stronger. The speaker was silent for a long moment. Then he turned to the council. I call for an immediate vote. The matter before us is simple. Humanity has proven their worth and their strength. They have saved a council world. They have defeated a threat that destroyed our best fleets. The question is whether they deserve full membership in this council, with all voting rights and privileges. The vote was quick. 13 hands rose in agreement. For the first time in 87 years, the vote was unanimous. Ambassador Chen Wei, the speaker said formally, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I welcome humanity as a full member species. Further, I propose that Earth be granted a permanent seat on the Security Directorate, given their demonstrated military capacity and their willingness to defend Council worlds. Another vote. Another unanimous decision. Chen felt a weight lift from his shoulders, but also a new weight settle. With recognition came responsibility. Humanity would be expected to stand guard, to be ready, to fight when needed. He could live with that. His species could live with that. It's what they had been doing all along anyway. Later, after the session ended, the Viridian speaker approached Chen privately. Up close, the speaker looked old and tired. My name is Veshitaran, the Viridian said quietly. I never told you my personal name before. It seemed unnecessary for a probationary species representative. He paused. I was wrong about many things. We all make mistakes, Chen replied. How did you do it? Veshitaran asked. How did your species prepare so thoroughly? How did you build so much in secret? Chen smiled slightly. We have a saying on Earth. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. While the Council hoped the swarm would never come, we prepared for it. While you debated, we built. While you relied on ancient technology, we innovated. We did what humans always do. We adapted, we overcame, we survived. And the weapons, some of what we saw. Veshitaran shuddered. Your species knows war in a way we cannot comprehend. Yes, Chen said simply. We do. Earth's history is full of wars. We've fought each other for resources, for territory, for ideas, for survival. We know every terrible thing that war entails, but we also learned from it. We learned how to end wars, how to prevent them, how to make peace last. Your species skipped that step. You went straight from primitive to peaceful. You never learned the hard lessons. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Both, Chen admitted. You have a beautiful civilization, Veshtaran. Art, music, philosophy that took millions of years to develop. We have weapons, tactics, and hard-won survival instincts. Neither is better. But together we might actually build something that lasts. Veshtaran nodded slowly. The galaxy is different now. Everyone knows about humanity's true strength. Some will fear you. Some will respect you. Some will want to be your allies. And some will want to challenge us, Chen added. Yes. Let them, Chen said quietly. The swarm learned what happens when you threaten worlds under human protection. Anyone else who wants to try will learn the same lesson. Veshtaran looked at the human ambassador for a long moment. Then he extended his hand in the human gesture of greeting he had seen but never used before. Welcome to the Council, Ambassador Chen. True partnership begins today. Chen took his hand and shook it firmly. Thank you, Veshtaran. We'll try not to disappoint you. As Chen left the chamber, he looked out at the stars through the great windows. Somewhere out there, the human fleet was returning home. Somewhere out there, the swarm was regrouping, learning, preparing to return. But humanity was ready. They had always been ready. The transmission that had shocked the galaxy wasn't just a display of military might. It was a message, clear and simple. Humanity had arrived. Not as the weak species the Council had dismissed, but as warriors, protectors, and survivors. The galaxy would remember what it witnessed at Viridian Prime. They would remember the dark ships that appeared from nowhere, the terrible weapons, the humans who fought with laughter on their lips and steel in their hearts. And the next time the darkness came, the galaxy would know who to call. The transmission ended with Admiral Zhang's final words, words that would be repeated across 1,000,000 worlds. The galaxy spent eons searching for a warrior species worthy of the legends. They never realized they had already found one. We are humanity. We are here, and we will stand guard.